guys here bringing you a video of my predictions for the top 8 decks of the upcoming January 1st, 2014 format. God, it's weird. It's already 2014 almost. Ugh, time flies. Anyway, guys, real quick, shout out to me. This is coming up on my first anniversary of actually playing competitively. I'm not a psycho, so I don't actually know the exact date, but I know it was sometime in December last year. So I like to think that I've made great strides since I showed up at Millennium in Rochester with a macro monarch deck that I went exo with in novice, and then immediately decided to go and get raped in expert for a few weeks. But I think I got the hang of it, guys. Yeah, so anyway, back to what I was talking about before. Top 8 decks of this format. This is such a slow format. I mean, I'm sure derpy decks are going to come out throughout the way, but, you know, they always do. But I feel like this is a format that's going to force players that are combo deck players to really be innovative. It's going to bring forth... This is like the type of format where it really brings forth creative FTK decks, creative OTK decks. Decks that aren't necessarily archetype-based, that are just a genius combination of cards. Things like that usually happen in formats like this, and that makes me pumped, because I'm excited to see that shit. Not excited to lose to it, but excited to see it. So, without further ado, guys, we're going to go with number 8, and this is actually a split, because I couldn't decide, because this really depends on how the format swings. Whether it swings the way I expect it to, or if it swings the way I hope it doesn't do. But for number 8, I have Consular and Evil Swarm. Tied. The reason I have it tied is because both decks are very similar in what they do. They summon a boss monster and they protect the shit out of that boss monster. Evil Swarm has Ophion, obviously, and Consular has Pleiades. It really depends here because Consular is essentially going to be an ineffective deck if everybody's playing Bujin. On the same token, if nobody's playing Dragons, Evil Swarm becomes an ineffective deck. As you'll see throughout this list, I actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these decks don't really summon above level 5. So if 5 out of the top 8 decks, not even including Evil Swarm, doesn't really, feed into Ophion's ability, then Evil Swarm's going to be ineffective. So basically, the format's either going to take a derpy creative FTK, OTK turn, in which case Evil Swarm will be the better deck, or it's going to be much more control-based, in which Consular will be the better deck, if that makes any sense. Onward and upward, 7, Harpies. Yeah, they're back on the list. Again, I mean, they moved down a couple spots, but this time I'm actually doing more decks. Harpies are busted. One got top 8 at my locals today. Obviously, one won the Philly regional that I happened to be at. Dude was sick at the game. Like, he gave no fucks about dragons. But, it's such a good deck. Like, they have 3 of their own return that essentially has no cost, and if you have the right cards in hand, you can actually +2 off of the cost, because if you discard Hysteric Sign, then end phase that goes off, you get to add 3 cards. So instead of actually paying a cost, it's like you get to return, you basically get to play a return from the different dimension and then add 2 cards to your hand in the end phase. Like, or add 3 cards. It's stupid. And they have 3 of it. And Dancer's a thing now, so they have access into level 8 synchros, rank 8 or rank 7 exceeds. Excuse me. It always has been one of my favorite decks in that it really just gets through back row, and I feel like at least at the beginning of this format, it's going to be a very back row heavy format. It's going to be a lot of Bujin, a lot of Fire Fist, a lot of Evil Swarm. Just derping as many back row as they can into their deck and trying to win like that, but Hunting Ground really punishes players for that. So, I mean, you could essentially have all of your sided guards against Harpies and they can still win. Like, I didn't actually play against the guy who got top 8 at my locals today, but I watched one of his matches, and the guy going against him, this was game 2, Harpies had won game 1, and the guy went first and played Macrocosmos, Skill Drain, and I don't know, so he had some other set card, I think it was like Bottomless, but that didn't end up mattering because the Harpy player drew for turn, he Space Typhooned, Skill Drain, played Hunting Ground, summoned Channeler, popped macro, discarded, summoned some other person, I don't know, I wasn't really paying attention at that point. I think it might have been Dancer, and popped the bottomless or compulse or whatever it was, I don't remember. I don't think it was a compulse. But actually no, it was a Mirror Force, I'm sorry. Sorry, it just came back to me. Which explains why he didn't activate it in response to anything. But he popped the Mirror Force, leaving himself with essentially a full board there, and the opponent with nothing. So it's just, it has such access. It basically creates its own heavy storm, but it's infinite. Like, as long as you can summon monsters, you can pop aggro. It's great. Enough on Harpies. I do love the deck, hence me rambling. This next one's going to be a lot shorter because I know not very much about this deck, but Noble Knights is number 6. Right now, I don't think they're very good, to be honest. I think they're very, if they get their playoff, they're busted. It's almost impossible to beat them if they get like their Exceed dude and then like mad equips or whatever they do. Pardon my ignorance if you're a Noble Knight fan. I give no fucks about that deck. But I feel like with the upcoming support that they're getting, if it's as good as some of these people have been telling me, that they really have potential to be a good deck. So for now, I'm going to leave them at 6. Maybe they'll move up or down depending. But I do feel like they're a deck that people need to watch out for. Number 5, I have Dragon Ruler variants. I know they just keep trying to kill this deck. Hopefully it's dead. Hopefully. But with a lot of really, really, really good players having been playing dragons for 6-7 months now, they've really gotten accustomed to the deck, and a lot of players don't really like to just move on like that until the deck's absolutely dead. So with the introduction of the Mythic Rulers, a lot of people that I've been seeing have just been playing 2 to 3 of each Mythic Ruler, 1 of each Dragon Ruler, 1 Sacred Sword, and then Gold Sark, and they've actually just made it into almost like a Felgrand Turbo. And some of them have been running some other interesting cards that, like Fog King, for example, that are just like really turbo-y with the mythics, and they just combo very well. Montage also works well in that. I've seen builds with 2 or 3 Montage, because you summon that and then you special Mythic Water, and then, you know, there's your Felgrand play. So I think it's still a viable deck. Do I think it's nearly as good? Do I think it has nearly as much potential as it did last format? Not at all. Do I feel like it's going to be winning every regional, every YCS, or getting top 4 in every regional, every YCS? No, I don't. But I do think it is a deck to be reckoned with, and for that I do put it at number 5. For number 4, I put Fire Fist. Deck we haven't heard anything from for like close to 6 months now, if not longer. This deck is still pretty good. Like, 4-axis hasn't been hit at all, and now they got their 3 tankies back. I put 4-axis slightly higher than 3-axis, but I'm just going to pair them together for this because it really doesn't matter. With 3 tanky, the deck's broken. They have access into Tiger King, which is essentially a win condition against a lot of decks. They have access into all the great rank 4s like Black Ship, Cowboy, Dweller, Diamond Ire, etc., etc. And, you know, they have both control and explosion capabilities. They can either sit on a bear and a bunch of back row, or they can just derp, 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 win. So for that, I do put them at number 4. However, I don't think they're good enough to crack the tier 1, which is what I consider decks 1 through 3. Real quick here, let me just break this down. I don't know if I've explained it before, but tier 1, in my opinion, is the top 3 decks. Tier 0 is, if anything's like unfucking beatable, like dragons with babies. And then from there, just the next 3 decks is tier 1. Tier 1.5 is the next 2 decks. Tier 2 is 6 through 8. And then anything below that's just either non-tier or tier 3. So basically this deck is tier 2 and up. Anyway, sorry, back to that. Number 3, Mermail. Pretty good. Pretty good. They're looking to be the fastest deck of this format. I know last format with Vanity's Emptiness running rampant and Maxi's running rampant, a lot of good Mermail players turned their deck into more of a control build. They ran a lot more actual back row. They ran a lot more focused on Exceed plays as opposed to Synchro-wing and just putting derpy huge fucking monsters on board. So I feel like they can combine those 2 strategies now, because Vanities is going to be played less, Maxi is going to be played less, Valor's not going to be played at all because it's really, really looking to be bad this format, with things like Mermail being a thing, Bujin being a thing, you know, things like that. I feel like Valor is going to be played because everybody always plays it at some point. You know, you're going to see decks with it, but I feel like it's not going to be as relevant, and for that, Mermail just has free reign to just derp. So they're the best fast OTK potential deck, in my opinion, for this format. Number 2, Prophecy. Magician of Faith is OP as a motherfucker in that deck. Yeah, Fate's at 1, but now you can keep getting it. I mean, granted, you only get 1 Magician of Faith search, but, you know, Spellbook of Life is a thing, Book of Moon is a thing. It's essentially like a pseudo Spellbook Magician of Prophecy. So it just, you know, if you get Tower Eternity and Fate into a loop, then it's almost impossible to grind against them because they're just going to fate your boss whatever you try to do, and it's really good. And as the number 1 deck for this format, and I'm going to stick by this shit, even if it doesn't top. I don't care. This deck is broken as hell. They have access into Kaiser Coliseum. They have access into Vanities, which is going to be big. Now, I know I'm contradicting myself because I said not a lot of people are playing it right now, but once plants get their support, yeah, you're going to want to play it. So they have access into that. They have access into Kaiser. They have access into running triple Lance main decked without having to give up anything. And they have inherently good matchups against just about every deck that I've listed so far, except for perhaps Prophecy. And that deck is Bujin. Bujin is nuts right now, guys. It is arguably the best control deck that I've seen being played since Macro Rabbit had 3 Tour Guide, 3 Rabbit. Like, it's... I know I might get some hate for that, because this is shaping up to be a all-in-all lower format than the one that Dino Rabbit played in, but in like a perspective comparative scale, it's so good. Like, it has such an ability to just dominate decks, and it's so easy. Like, it's difficult to play in that you need to know what to search, what to drop, when to activate your back row, which is huge because you really don't run that much really solid back row. A lot of your back rows, like things like Lance, Kaiser, you run your tankies, things like that clog it, but at the same time you do have those select few power cards such as like Torrential and Mirror Force that you need to know when to activate. So if you're actually a good player, Bujin's easy for you to play, and it's easier for you to play well, and for that, Bujin is my number 1 deck for this format. I'm going to stick by that, guys. Now, once Legacy of the Valiant comes out, we're going to see how the support kind of falls into place, and I'll probably make another video for then, but at least for right now, you know, December 16th, 2013, looking forward to the January 1st format, these are my predictions. Bujin's going to just be nuts. I think that's about it, guys. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. As always, like, down below, comment, and subscribe and shit. And I always sub for sub. I actually just got back on that, so if I haven't subbed you yet, just send me an inbox if you really care about it, and then I'll sub you. I think I got everybody, but it doesn't show all my subs on my sub list because some of them are like hidden or whatever. But everyone that it shows I've gotten, so yeah. Thanks for that, guys. Anyway, guys, Controlled Cat signing out. Stay beautiful.